What's up guys, welcome back to another video. This is a reaction to the top 10 rudest countries, and firstly, is this factual or is this just opinion based? I don't know. This is probably one of those videos that offended a lot of people. You can see with the dislikes and the likes, but yeah, it's always going to be touchy. But I don't know how they're going to gauge this, because it can all be down to just perspectives. Maybe one person went to a country and they had the worst experience, someone else went and they loved it. But yeah, we're gonna see. And yeah, so have you ever wondered what country travel? Oh, so this is the opinion of travelers or people going to different countries, tourists, and yeah, however they're treated by the locals or whatever. But yeah, will the UK be here? I mean, I'm not sure. I don't know, or England, should I say? But yeah, I'm going to Italy in 2 weeks, and I have heard that, again, I don't know if this is for all Italians, but if you speak, I don't know if it's any other language or English there, they like to speak Italian, which is fair enough, you know what, if they don't want to speak English or they can't. But I feel like even if they can, I've heard that they might not necessarily speak to you if you're speaking in English to them, because they're just like, I don't know. It is what it is, you know. I can't really explain why, and I don't know where I heard it, but yeah, luckily my girlfriend can speak a little bit, so we should be alright. But yeah, we're gonna just check this out and see what will be on here, what countries and why. But yeah, let's jump into this.
What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to World According to Briggs and an international video. Today we're looking at countries where tourists say the locals are rude. I read a blog about this subject where a guy said every time he went to Germany he ran across nothing but rude and unfriendly people. He listed a few other countries he felt were almost as bad as Germany, but he said Germany was the worst. So that got me thinking, and I ran a poll where I listed 40 of the most visited countries and asked travelers to pick the 3 countries they felt the locals were the most rude. I also listed the top 15 on a few different polls on the community section of this channel, and this is what we found. Number 10, the Greeks. Greece is one of the oldest countries still going. They offer tourists ancient ruins, great islands, amazing beaches, gyros, and a steady helping of "F you, go back where you came from." Around 30 million people visit Greece every single year.
Damn.
The government and shop owners love that. The locals aren't always on board with it. They have a reputation of being rude.
Once in Greece, airport or passport control officer literally said yelled at us and called us names just because we were standing in the wrong line.
Think it's always as rude as people might think. A lot like here in the United States, Greece, they have a tendency to talk a lot with their arms and a little too close for American and, let's say, British standards. You know, they get a little too close when they're talking. And I think a lot of Westerners or people from North America kind of view this as them being rude. Now, granted, like all countries, they have some rude people that are just rude, but I think a lot of their reputation comes from that. 37% of the people surveyed had Greece listed as one of the 3 rudest countries. Number 9, the Turkish. Yeah, Turkey's got kind of a reputation for having rude residents.
I mean, I went to Turkey, but I went to a touristy area. Actually, to be fair, we had some terrible fucking people. So we had our flight cancelled, so we had to stay for another 3 nights, and we were just kind of left in the dust because we couldn't go to our hotel anymore because that was fully booked. And we had to stay in this, it wasn't a nice hotel pretty much, and we wanted to go to another hotel, so we got a taxi driver who said it was a really good hotel, it's on the beach, all this. Turned out that it was just probably someone he knew, and it was just doing them a favour. We went to that hotel. It was the worst place I've ever been to. The bedding, like, it wasn't done. It was like someone had just stayed the previous night and it was just left like that. I don't know, but it was horrible. And the taxi driver was he was quite nice to us when we were going there. He was trying to be quite nice anyway. And then when we got to the hotel, he was just being rude as hell. And I thought I was like, I don't know, I thought it was some, like, we were going to have something happen to us. Honestly, it was crazy. I hated it, but might have just been the wrong experience. To be fair, we had another taxi driver that was a lot nicer. I didn't have money on me and stuff, and I had to explain. And he was like, he was offering to basically say we could just have it for free, the taxi ride, but I ended up getting money out. But yeah, it's different experiences, right? But we were thrown in the deep end there, and to be fair, that was rough. That's a rough experience. Just thinking about it makes me cringe.
Like Greece, they have a lot of history going on here. Istanbul, which used to be Constantinople, played a big part in the Crusades. This is where a lot of the European crusaders passed through to go to the Middle East and cause all kinds of problems. I mean, Constantinople served as an imperial capital for almost 16 centuries. All the way back to the Romans, the Byzantines, the Ottomans, they all had this place as their capital.
History.
Turkey offers a lot more outside of Istanbul. They've got a lot of history here, a lot of great things to see. Turkey sees around 50 million visitors a year. Actually, in 2019, before the pandemic, they hit 52 million. So they see a lot of people going through here, and not everyone's on board with how cool they are there. 41% of the respondents had Turkey as one of their 3 countries with the rudest locals. Number 8, Italians. I mean, how can these people be so rude? They got pasta, pizza, they got all the good food here. In my opinion, Italian food ranks right behind Mexican food. Yeah, that's just me. Maybe if I grew up in Europe, I'd feel the opposite about that, but Mexican food, then Italian food. That's how I see it. Italy has some of the most amazing cities to see. Think about it. Rome, Milan, Venice.
We're going to Venice soon. I'm excited, man.
Florence, San Marino, which actually isn't part of Italy, it's its own country. Yeah, most people don't know that Italy has a small country inside of Italy. It is San Marino, and it is east of Florence and south of Venice. Italy sees over 90 million tourists every single year, at least in the last 10 years. That's about what they see, over 90 million. That dropped down considerably during the pandemic years, but in normal times, they see about 90 million people. And a good percentage of those people apparently think the Italians are rude. Italians actually have a reputation for being rude. I mean, they didn't invent the middle finger, the Greeks did, but the Italians, they sort of perfected it. In Milan, they actually have a statue of the middle finger pointing at the Italian Stock Exchange. Not even kidding, here it is. For a country that invented banks, they really don't like bankers too much. 41% of the people listed Italians in their top 3 rudest locals. Number 7, the Spanish. This one caught me by
It's just Europe, man. Europe's just full of rude people.
surprise. I know quite a few Spanish people. They have never been anything but friendly and nice. But apparently, if you're a tourist in their homeland, they're not too keen about it. I was reading one travel blogger, and he said that it's mostly the younger kids, younger people, I should say, the 30 to 20 to their teens. They're the people that don't like a lot of tourists. The older people sort of like it, or at least they like the money that's being brought in from the tourists. I find this one a little strange. I don't know if it's accurate, from my experience, I should say. But apparently, if you go by the survey and the polls, the Spanish people aren't too keen on people coming to Spain. Spain sees about 70 million visitors a year, and 45% of the people surveyed had Spain as one of their 3 countries with the rudest locals. Number 6, the Chinese. Now, I couldn't tell you personally, whether this is correct or not. I'm going by the survey on this one. I've never been to China. I know some Chinese people, not very well, but the survey says that they're pretty rude to the locals. I did a little reading, and apparently you go into the rural areas and they really like you. If you get in the cities and stuff, they're kind of rude and abrupt to foreigners. But the locals in the rural areas, they're almost happy to have you.
Really?
46% of the people surveyed had China as one of the 3 countries with the rudest locals. Number 5, Americans. Yes, the United
5.
States.
Is UK or is England still going to come? Oh, it's not looking good, man.
This is number 5. I know a lot of people from other countries probably just gasp. How could they be number 5? Shouldn't they be number 1? No, we're really not that rude when you're coming here to be tourists. I mean, if you end up in the wrong place, like New Jersey, you'll probably think differently of us. But for the most part, in most of the country, people are pretty decent in the tourist areas. Not just New Jersey, you might want to add Hawaii onto that. Hawaii's not too keen even about other Americans coming to that state. Now, if you consider gun violence rude, yeah, we're hella rude then, because we got a lot of that here in the United States, in case you don't know and you're from another country. That's like my advice to anyone coming to the United States from another country. Make sure you know where the dangerous neighborhoods are. I mean, any neighborhood has the potential to be dangerous, but we have some that if you don't know about them, could be a serious mistake. So keep that in mind. You should know little things like go see St. Louis. The arch is neat and all that's really cool. Don't go see East St. Louis. Don't make that mistake. Go see downtown Detroit. Don't go outside of downtown Detroit and you'll be fine. Go visit Chicago. Just don't go too far south from what they call the Loop, which is the downtown area of Chicago. Things like that. 51% of the people surveyed had the United States as one of their 3 countries with the rudest locals. Number 4, Russians. Russia's another country.
So Russia's 4. We've had China. I don't really want to predict because I feel like it's quite rude. will Japan be there maybe? I don't know if Japan will be there or will be the complete opposite, if they'll be really polite there.
That has people that I think sort of get a bad rap. But because it's their culture and the way they do things, it doesn't jive with a lot of, especially Western countries and their citizens. Russians are very to the point and very blunt about everything. There's no like gray areas with them most of the time. And they don't sugarcoat much when they're talking to you. So a lot of people might think that's rude. The people that I know that have visited Russia, they're kind of 50-50 on it. Some say it was great. Some people say they were kind of rude and mean to them. So you don't know. But in the survey, 53% of the respondents had Russia as one of their top 3 countries with the rudest locals. Number 3, Germans. Yeah, Germans are rude.
Okay, is that? I didn't know that, to be fair. I mean, he mentioned it at the start of the video, but I didn't really know it was seen like that.
Everybody knows it. They can't help it. They got a little that Russian thing going too, where there's no sugarcoating anything. It's very blunt.
France hasn't been yet. France will definitely be. I think France is probably going to be number 1. I feel like, aren't the French just seen as rude for some reason? I don't maybe because of historical reasons, but
very to the point, very matter of fact. And like I said in the Russian part, that Westerners find that a little abrasive sometimes. My experience with Germans has never been good. The ones that I know, the ones that I've talked to online, they're always seem to be rude. It's like their thing. I don't know what it is. One thing I've always heard over and over, and I kind of got that vibe too, they always get that thing where they think they're better than everyone else. Now that's an opinion by a lot of people, not like a fact. There's no arrogance metric, you know? Germany normal years sees about 40 million tourists. And 61% of the people surveyed had Germany as one of their 3 countries that they felt had the rudest locals.
Damn.
Number 2, the British.
Number 2, so it's going to be number 2, and then I guess France number 1.
Now this is amazing because of all the people surveyed, the number 1 country of origin of people that said the British were the rudest were the British. Yeah, the UK says British are the absolute rudest people in other countries. It's like these people know how.
Wait, did someone say I chose the UK because of the weather? Because they're muggy, wet, grey weather. What?
Like these people know how they are and they just own it. I've always heard the phrase ugly Americans when they're talking about Americans going to other countries and being tourists and how we're just rude.
Okay, yeah, British tourists are quite bad, to be fair. I think like that's a good point.
Rude and stupid and everything else like that. But apparently it's the British are even worse than us. 63% of the people surveyed had the United Kingdom in their top 3 for rudest locals.
France number 1.
Things where the algorithm is correct. All right, on to number 1. And number 1,
Yep.
the French. The French have a legendary reputation for being rude. There have been jokes about how rude the French are since forever. Everybody knows it. It's in jokes. They do things about how rude the French are in movies. There was a movie with Dudley Moore years ago where he played an ad executive who had like a breakdown and started telling the truth, and he created an ad that everyone loved. It showed an Italian woman cooking some pasta and said, "Come to Italy, we're nice. We're not like the French." And it showed a guy with a beret flipping the camera off. So that kind of gives you an idea. Now, don't take that as an opening because I made a reference to a movie that shows how something's a stereotype. For some reason, whenever I mention a movie, that's like someone's defense. Oh, he's basing his opinion off a movie. No, that's called an antidote. My opinion is just like the rest of the world's opinion on the French. They're frickin' rude. They got some good wine, though. You gotta love their wine. In 2018, France saw 89 million tourists. Now, their target for 2020 was 100 million, but the pandemic kind of set that sideways. We'll see if they get their 100 million here in the next couple years now that we're getting out of the pandemic. 71% of the people surveyed had France in their top 3 countries with the rudest residents.
I mean, it's fascinating how probably is France the most visited country? It's seen as the rudest. Seems like it doesn't really match up, but I don't know. But yeah, there we go. The 10 rudest countries based off some YouTube quizzing or comments or whatever. I was a sailor for 40 years and have been around a good bit of the world. I found rude people everywhere, but far more nice people in the same places. You can't judge a country by an encounter with someone who was rude to you. Also, how do you know that person is having a really bad day? We've all been rude at some time in our lives. Just apologise. Yeah, fair enough. But that's what I was sort of making the point at the start. It's just all based off individual sort of interactions and stuff, because sometimes you can have a good moment, sometimes you won't. The times I visit the USA, I've noticed they are either so friendly or so distinguishingly. How do you say disgustingly rude. I can't talk. Disgustingly rude. There's no middle point. Well, that's probably anywhere, to be fair. But hopefully you enjoyed this reaction, and yeah, that's that. Top 10 rudest countries. Let me know your thoughts, and let me know what you think from your experiences are, or is the rudest country you've been to. But yeah, until next time, like, subscribe. Peace.